Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you're new. It's Sam and today I'm going to be filming my best books of 2021. It was really hard for me to narrow these books down as I've read so many good books this year, but I managed to narrow them down to 15. Some of these books were published this year and some were published the years before. First of all though, I'm going to be mentioning some honourable mentions that did not make the top 15, but I still really loved. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, Near the Bone, American Royals, House in the Cerulean Sea, Get Alive Chloe Brown, Hang the Moon, The Lighthouse Witches, and finally, The Shelf. And now let's jump into my top 15 books. 15 being The Infinity Course. Honestly, I can't even believe this book fit into my top 15. When I picked this book up and read it, I did not think I was going to love it as much as I did. We follow a character who has died. She ends up in Infinity Course and nothing's really what it seems. There's a lot of stuff going on and she finds that she has to make a choice between two sides. There's a lot of action in this book and a lot of twists happen that really did shock me, and I cannot wait for the sequel for this book to come out next year. I think it comes out around February or March time. I'll link my anticipated reads video below because I mentioned the sequel for this one and you can go and check that out if you want. In 14th place is another book that honestly I knew had to be onto this list. I was like, this book will be on my top 15. It has to be, and that is The Right and the Payor. Honestly, like, this was just obvious this was going to be on this list because I had such a good time reading it, got through it so quickly that I was just like, this book's got to be on this list, and I can't wait again for the sequel for this book. We follow a character whose little town has been completely frozen over and she escapes it. And a lot of people who escaped, I think, are being killed or captured, so she has to go into hiding and dye her hair because her hair's white, so it kind of gives away where she's from. She discovers that her friend, who she thought was dead, is actually alive, and in order to get his freedom, she has to go on this like sort of exhibit, or whatever it's called, mission to help these people go back to her little mountain town and retrieve some items. This book has a lot going on in it. There's a lot of action. There's some creepy stuff that happens in this book in the mind as well. And again, can't wait for the sequel for this one. In 30th place is a book that was really popular this year when it first came out, and I loved it just as much, and that was You Deserve Each Other. This book was so much fun. I absolutely loved the main character in this book. I loved the story. It made me laugh. It made me feel a little bit emotional. It felt so realistic. It never felt like certain things were happening for no reason, or that it was too rushed, or that, would that really happen though? No, this book just honestly felt so realistic with all the stuff that's happening. But honestly, one thing I remember about this book most is how much I laughed reading it, and I want to reread this. At some point, I have to, because this is just such a fun read. In 12th place, I put two books on here, and you'll understand in a minute why. And that is Serpent and Dove and Blood and Honey. So the series, I have not read the last one yet. Both of these books were such a fun and joyful read with so much action. I love the characters, I love the world, I love the story, and these books don't disappoint, which is shocking because when I first picked these books up, I was really nervous because some people, like, they read like fan fiction, they're not good, but like I don't know what those reviews are on about because they are both so good. This one kind of got way more hate than the first one, and people say there's no action. I'm like, were you reading the same thing? Because there's action from the beginning. I love this series. It's one of my favourite series. Seriously need to finish it though. I really need to finish it. And in 11th place is The Four Winds. This book no doubt had to be on this list. Kristen Hanna is one of my favourite authors. Not only did I absolutely love our main character Elsa and the story, but this book taught me so much about the Dust Bowls. I can't say it. Dust Bowls. And anyway, moving on. But also the Great Depression, and just how hard it was for people when, you know, the drought was happening and obviously their farmlands couldn't grow crops, which means they couldn't make money. And then you had all the dust like happening, these storms coming in that was literally killing people. And then the Great Depression on top of it. Honestly, this book was just emotional roller coaster that broke my heart, and the ending to this book is an ending I don't think I could ever forget. But it was also educational, and that's what I like about Kristen Hanna. She writes about these women in history that tend to get forgotten, but she also educates you on that era as well. Just thinking about it makes me really emotional, but it's an incredible book. In 10th place is In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, and I can't believe this is a debut novel because, like, I think it's a debut novel. If I'm wrong, I'll put it up here somewhere. But wow. This is so good. We follow 2 timelines, 10 years before college and 10 years ago when they were at college. And our main character is not trustworthy and not likable, which made this book so much more fun to read about a character who you couldn't really trust. That you couldn't really trust and that you kind of questioned. There's a character in this book, their friend, that got murdered when they were all at college. And 10 years later, our main character is going back for this reunion and she kind of wants to figure out who actually murdered their friend. So their one friend at the time had got wrongly accused, and we go back and forth like with all the secrets and why each person could have done it. And then when you do find out who murdered her, I was shocked. I was not expecting it. And then there's this twist, and then I was like, wow. And this author has this way of like throwing these bombs onto a lap that just shock you, that you just weren't seeing. Like, you get over one situation, so there's this bomb that's been thrown at you, and you're like, holy moly. Wow, okay, you deal with it. And then she throws another bomb in your lap, and you got to deal with that. And I will be picking up anything else this author writes in the future, because this was just incredible. In 9th place is The Float Plan. Oh my god, this is a very slow burn romance, but it's so much more than that. It's contemporary as well. We deal with a character who is going to go on this boat journey on her own, but it was originally planned to go on it with her fiance, but he took his life. She's trying to follow the plan that they had, but obviously it's not that simple, and she's not very good at sailing, so she ends up enlisting the help of a guy called Kian, who has his own problems as well. Yeah, I don't really want to say too much about it, other than it's absolutely stunning, and the setting of them being on this yacht on the ocean and these beautiful islands was just so breathtaking. There's some of my favourite scenes in this book. One of the scenes involves them being in the middle ocean, there's these whales, and oh my god, that scene was just so beautiful. You were either crying happy tears or crying because your heart was shattered, and I absolutely love this book. And again, this is something I want to reread in the future. It's so beautifully written and told. Of course, that had to be my top 15. And in 8th place is another favourite author, Riley Sager, Home Before Dark. I cannot tell you how long I felt like I was waiting for this book. So this book kind of, I think it came out in America first, and then I had to wait like almost another year, or it felt like a year. I don't know. It felt like a lifetime, to be honest. When I found out what this book was about, which is about a character called Maggie, who returns to this old house that her family lived in for some time and then fled one night because of a bunch of stuff that happened. But we also get like her dad's book, which is called The House of Horrors, where he tells a story about the house being haunted. Of course, a lot of people don't believe that, and Maggie herself doesn't believe it, and she goes back to the house to renovate it and sell it, but a lot of weird stuff starts happening, so she starts to question if her dad's book was true or not. Paranormal, haunted house, a book in a book. I mean, I was desperate to read this book, and it did not disappoint. Oh my god, I love this book so much. Honestly, I love this book so much. It's so good. Riley Sager knows how to write thrillers and keep you entertained and then give you a twist, but also make you question it along with the character. He is honestly so good at writing, and I'm planning to read as many of his books as I can in the future. And in 7th place is 6 Crimson Cranes, another book that surprised me with how much I loved it. It's sort of a fairy tale fantasy. It deals very much with a character who is cursed, and her brothers have been turned into cranes, and she's trying to be reunited with them as well as go back and save the kingdom. She discovers though there's a conspiracy going on that's far darker than the curse that's been set on her. And honestly, if you're looking for like a light fantasy with a fairy tale feeling that will just pull you in, feel like a blanket's been wrapped around you, then I highly recommend this book. I actually did a review of this book, so definitely go and check that out. I'll link it below. This is a favourite. I mean, it's obviously a favourite. It's on my top 15. It's so beautifully written, and the story just, I don't know, it makes you feel really warm and cozy, but also there's a lot of action in this book and twists. So yeah, another one that's got a sequel coming out next year sometime. Not sure on the date, it's not been released, but I can't wait to jump back into this world with these characters, and I can't wait to see what the cover reveal is going to be either. I'm hoping it'll be just as beautiful as this one. In 6th place is TJ Klune, Under the Whispering Door. This is another book that I was so desperate to get my hands on, and I had to wait all the way until I think September. So in the UK it didn't come out until way later. It was driving me insane. I actually remember my Waterstones telling me that it got delayed by like a week, and then I found a week later and it still wasn't there, and they were like, it's been delayed to next month, and I was like want to wait. But the moment it came out, I read it pretty much straight away and I was not disappointed. TJ Klune has a way of writing about heavy topics. For example, this book is solely focused on death and he makes it so easy to digest and makes it feel so whimsical and magical, and just everything about this book is just so cozy and I loved it. But also, boy, did this book make me cry. This book broke my heart. There were so many emotional topics in this book. I mean, of course, because it is surrounding death. I became so attached to all the characters in the book. Like, every single one of these characters matter to me. They literally are so important to me, and they just kind of like crawl their way into my heart and stay there because they're so amazing. And what I love as well is that he manages to write these characters that aren't so likable at first, and then you start to see their character change and you just start to love them. He's honestly such a talented writer. This had to be my top 5 because it's incredible. And if you haven't read this one yet, you should definitely go and read it because, like his book House and Serenity, this is just as good. Now we are into my top 5, which is my top favourite books that I read this year, which, by the way, is so difficult to have chosen because all of these books that I just listed I loved so much, and it took me so long to do this list. Like, I'm not even joking. I think it took me like at least a week to decide on this. I felt like I was betraying my other books. Like, the books that aren't on this list, I feel like I betrayed them. Seriously, I feel bad. I feel like I need to apologise to my books. But I did it, and now it's down to my top 5. And in 5th place is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Oh my god, I've not stopped thinking about this book since I read it. I listen to music and it makes me think of it. And yeah, I've done a review for this one. I will link that below. There's no spoilers, but if you want to see it, I'll link it below. I also give a when I say sneak peek, I pretty much show all the pictures inside the illustrated edition, so I will link that below. It was like obvious that it had to be in my top 5, and the story's just unforgettable. And I remember reading it and feeling really lonely, which, I mean, makes sense because our character Addie is forgotten and she's alone a lot. So I think it just was like perfect that I felt that way reading it. I don't know if that's the intention that author had, but yeah, Addie LaRue is absolutely an incredible book. So in 4th place is a book that I did not think I was going to like. It's not really my type of story. It's not my go-to book. Everyone was talking about how good it was, and I just like, nah, it's not for me. It's not for me. But then I saw the 2 special edition books on sale, so I got them, read it, and now I'm 4th place of my best book of 2021, 6 of Crows. When people say that the characters in this book are so well written, they're not lying. They are the best characters that I've read in any book. Each and every single one of them stand out on their own, and without that character in the book, it just would not work. The story is fast paced, there's action, there's shocks and there's twists. The ending was just like, what? So I picked up the sequel straight away and read it because I wasn't waiting. I absolutely love this world and these characters. And Leigh Bardugo, I am going to be reading as much as I can from that author because honestly, wow. And in 3rd place is a book that I saw people talking about. I think it was on like BookTube and they got it through like a book box. I think it could have been Book of the Month. And honestly, I kind of fell in love with the cover. And a lot of people say that this is fantasy and it's not. It's actually historic fiction. And that is Lost Apothecary. Can we just appreciate how beautiful this cover is? I am obsessed with history. And this book goes... My book's there. So it switches between the 18th century where we've got 2 characters and then the present day where we've got a character called Caroline who goes mudlarking and finds a bottle. Let's say that. And it's got this like logo sort of mark onto it, and she starts like researching it and discovering the past. And then in the past we're discovering how all this stuff's starting to happen. So this girl who comes to the prophecy shop to get something. So our main character now, she kind of like gives out poisons to help women get rid of men. And then something happens and it starts to all unravel. And what this author does really well is she makes secrets come out in the right time. So you'll get one secret coming out in the present and then one secret coming out in the past, but it feels like it fits perfectly. Like, she balances it so well. And I feel like I really relate the character Caroline for, as in her love for history and wanting to work out what's going on and the excitement she gets from it. Because honestly, I was getting like chills when our main character discovers a certain thing in his book. I don't want to say in case it's a spoiler. And I was like geeking out so much. I actually want to go mudlarking now because I didn't even know that was a thing. So I want to go and do that now. Every moment of this book was just a pleasure to read. and I heard that it's getting turned into a TV series. And I did hear rumours that there was going to be a sequel, but then I can't find anything out about that, so I don't really know. But yeah, this book is so incredible. One of my favourite historical fiction books. I don't understand it doesn't get as much love as it should do. Like, it's just not talked about enough. I feel like this book should be talked about way more, because people seem to have read it and enjoyed it, but they don't love it. And I'm like, why? It's so good. But yeah. Anyway, we are now into my top 2 books. And that is, in second place, a book that honestly was so much fun to read. And there's going to be like another 4 books out as well. And I'm like, yes, because I love these characters and I love this story. And that is, Finley Donovan is killing it. I absolutely love this book so much. Is it thriller mystery with a hint of comedy, which is like, at first I thought, like, how are you going to do that? Like, how? And this book does it. If you haven't seen the show, or you have, Dead to You, Dead to Me, this book kind of reminds me of that show. And I'm not the only one who thinks that, because a lot of people say it. Basically, in this book, we follow a character called Finley who's writing a book. And she's talking about it. She's in some like restaurant or something. And she's talking about this book with her editor, or I think her agent person. She's trying to get this book done because she needs money. But this woman on another table overhears and actually thinks that Finley is a hit woman, and leaves a note on a table saying about 50,000 if you kill her husband. And it pretty much goes from there, where she's been mistaken as a hit woman, and a lot of stuff happens. And they have the best duo in this book. She teams up with this, I think, her ex-nanny, and it's so funny, so enjoyable. They have like a really cute little romance happening in this book as well. Honestly, I am dying to read the sequel. The sequel comes out in February, but it's hardback, and obviously mine's paperback. So I was like, okay, well, I'll wait for the paperback, right, so they can all match. But then I'd have to wait till August. No, I'm just going to get the hardback, because like, I can't wait. If you've not read this book, read it. It is so good. Oh my god, I want to go and read it right now. I literally just want to go and read this book right now. If you've not read this book, but you've been wanting to, then just pick it up. You will not be disappointed. It's so good. Like, honestly, it's just so good. Now this brings me to my top favourite book of the year. That was it. That had to be in first place. And I don't think it was really difficult to choose my number 1 place for this book. I think, like, from the moment I read it, I knew that this was going to be in first place. I read this book back in January, and it remained in the top space. I have never forgotten the story, never forgotten how it's made me feel. I've been wanting to reread it, but obviously I'm trying to get through all my TBR books. And this story has a place in my heart that I don't think can ever be taken over. This was written beyond well. In fact, this is by one of my favourite authors. It was the first book I read by that author. And I'm just going to show you what it is. It's Kristin Hannah's The Nightingale. I heard quite a few people talking about this book, and I was like, it sounds decent enough. And people would say to me like, oh, you're going to really cry at the end. I cried more than at the end, okay? There are so many moments in this book that broke my heart. There was points where I physically had to put this book down and take a moment. I couldn't physically see through my tears at points. Like, there's one particular moment that happens in this book that was just so unexpected, and I physically had to put the book down and just take a moment because I was so shocked at what happened. And I remember picking the book back up and continuing reading, and I was just crying so much that I had to put it back down again. This book literally pulled my heart apart. It made me angry, but not because of the writing of the book itself, but just because of what like the Nazis did to people in World War II, how they treated people. It's just so inhumane and disgusting, and it's a part of history that I don't think we will ever forget. We can't forget it, because we need to not forget it so it never happens again. And it's so important that people keep telling stories about World War II and the Holocaust, because we shouldn't forget. It's a part of history that happened, and it's absolutely disgusting. And the human beings that were part, if you even could call them human beings, are vile. And honestly, Kristin Hannah did it so well. She tells the story of these women that might be forgotten, you know, at a time that, like, for example, our one sister, she's just trying to, like, you know, keep her head down. She doesn't want to get in trouble, but then a Nazi gets billeted, I think it's the right word, billeted at her house, and she has no choice but to allow him there, because if not, they'll just kick her out and she'll have nowhere to live with her children. And then you've got our other character, Issy, who's so brave, so brave, and she joins, I don't know if I can say that. Can I say that? 1 second. I don't know if I can say that. We have another sister, basically, Izzy. Yeah, I don't want to say too much about this book, but all I'm saying, if you haven't read this yet, you should go and read this book, because honestly, it's so beautiful and heartbreaking and memorable. And it's also educational as well. People aren't wrong when they say the ending will break your heart, because I'm not over this ending. Like, I'm so shocked at the ending. I wasn't expecting it. And then it happened and I was like, oh my God, that's what people mean. Like, wow. One thing about Chris and Hannah, she's not afraid to tear your heart apart. She's like, this happens and this is what happened in history and so many other people went through this, so this is happening. And she has a way of making you fall in love with these characters and then just completely tearing your heart apart. But I will always recommend this book, whether you read historic fiction or not. I feel like it's a book that you should definitely pick up and read, because it's just, I keep saying amazing because it is. But yeah, that was in number 1 spot. So that was all of my best books of 2021. Honestly, narrowed down to 15 was so difficult, which is why I gave some honourable mentions. But even then, there's still so many more books that should have been on this list that unfortunately weren't. But if you did enjoy this video, please hit that like button, subscribe, it would mean the world to me, and turn on that notification bell so you get alerted to when I next upload. And until next time, bye!
This is Sam Talks Books. Behind the scene. Fucking weirdo.